All right, so as Stacy said, my name is Tony Lechuga. I'm our Emerald Network Program Manager. Stacy never gave me a good reason why she asked me to speak here, and she made no demands about what I talk about. So I chose to talk about building playful cities. So it may seem like an odd topic in a week in which we had a city councilor reproach the idea of bus rapid transit, and on a day when the AM rush hour saw the red line in complete system freefall. But with my 7 minutes and the podium at my disposal, I'm going to talk about something that I think can make cities more livable for all people, and that is trying to make them more playful. I think it's important because the architect Paul Friedberg once made a comment. This is not a quote, this is just a general comment about what he said, that we spend almost innumerable amounts of money trying to keep people alive, but we do almost nothing to make those lives worth living in terms of funding what our cities look like. So, a little background that has nothing to do with this slide, but the visuals are there for you nonetheless. So I had my first career as a teacher. For 6 years, I worked at a K-8 school in my hometown of Denver. So when I came to urban planning, I came to it through this lens of working with children, thinking about what the city does and can be for them. The other side of that spectrum, my wife is a neuropsychologist. She works with older adults, mainly those folks with Alzheimer's and dementia. So between the two of us, we have innumerable conversations about designing cities for 16-year-olds all the way up to cities for 100-year-olds. And folks in my wife's field would say that while play is continually understood to be necessary for childhood development, it's also essential for maintaining some of those things that make us essentially human. Elements of surprise, discovery, physical challenge, mental stimulation, sensory perceptions, and my favorite, whimsy. So a city that designs with these ideas is what urban planning professor Quentin Stevens referred to as ludic cities. These are cities that design for a more broad human sense of play, not one that's simply focused on children, but one that's focused on increasing our daily social interactions and what those do for us. Now, bringing up the idea of playful cities, and especially this idea of absorbing purposeless activities in the land of Puritans is maybe sinful and part of my Wild West background. I don't know. So, but there's much to be said about enhancing communities, enhancing public health, enhancing quality of life through the art of placemaking, which often includes elements of play. So we're not just talking about playgrounds, those useful and defined edges. I'm encouraging the idea that we consider playfulness in all designs of our everyday experiences. It's one way that we can continue to sort of blur the lines between the mundane rhythms of our everyday experience in the city and some of our latent impulses to engage in spontaneity, exploration, and simulation. So some of these examples are places from around the world where the fun one up on the left is actually a set of swings that when you swing on them, they create noises. The goal is to swing in synchronicity with the people around you in order to create a wonderful and lovely tune. But I also want to encourage us to think about how the work that we do every single day, where we're often fighting for victories over crosswalks, over signal timing, can reflect these sorts of things. We don't need to see a dichotomy between the work that we're doing to improve a bus stop as not playful. I think by making spaces more playful, we are inducing demand. We're encouraging people to use those modes in more ways. So it's an essential part of continuing the work that we do. All right. There's an unfortunate downside to trying this. Nowadays, we see a rise in single-person households. We see a neglected, aging population, and we've seen the dawn of cell phones as people's best friends. This leads to less in-person social interaction and sort of the demise of the public sphere. So, we also have design that is also discouraging cities to be less playful. Some intentional design choices, such as little anti-skateboarding pegs. That one's just a throwback to my youthful rebellion days. Benches that discourage anything beyond uncomfortable sitting. I know that the city of Boston has made great strides to make City Hall Plaza more palatable, but what a terrible design, good God. And of course, we've seen the transfer of public space to private ownership, and that is more and more common these days. And we need to be considering what are the repercussions of that transformation. All right, so I want to ground us a little bit more in some of the work that I've been doing with Livable Streets here in the city of Boston, with reference to two different projects. So the one on the right is not our project. That is a privately owned public space. That's in the Seaport, one of Boston's whitest and wealthiest and newest neighborhoods, where they have this wonderful, playful activity. These are light-up musical seesaws. So that if you went and saw them at night, they'd glow, they'd make noise. On the left is the DCR-owned Doyle Playground. It has looked like that for years. Now, luckily, through the work that we've been supporting with partners from Southwest Boston CDC, Mattapan Food and Fitness, and philanthropic dollars, not city dollars, this park is actually getting a revamp. It's going to become the Doyle Park, not just a playground, but it's going to be a space with, yes, a playground, but also a stage for community activities, picnic tables, access to the river, and as part of one of our proposals for a new greenway on the side of the river that has been long neglected. So, ideally, we'll see some change coming. This is part of the hope of trying to plan for these more playful places. All right, I'm gonna wrap it up here. So, a 2018 Northeastern University study titled "The Price of Nothing: Examining Boston's 2018 Vacant Parcels" revealed that Boston has thousands of vacant parcels. So one of the things that we've actually been doing recently, and I was doing right before coming to this event, is working with some of those Northeastern students about what can we do with these vacant parcels. We've been thinking and working alongside community partners on Columbia Road to consider what we can do with them. I also want to give a shout out to another partner of ours, Madison Park Development Corporation, who in the coming year is going to be working with folks in Roxbury around looking at a few of these vacant parcels and thinking, what can we do to make these publicly accessible and publicly useful spaces? My final shout out, I want to give a shout out to Chris Carter with New Urban Mechanics. I do want to say that they recently put out a proposal for something called Play Around the Snowy City. So this is something that we're seeing happen more and more. We don't have to separate play from the everyday city. So I want to leave you with just these couple of thoughts that I think are maybe a good summary of the talks that we've had tonight. So my hope is that one day we can raise the bar of minimum expectations to the level where we're no longer designing for survivability, where we're actually working to knit together a fabric of walkable, bikeable, scootable types of places that are designed for livability. This, of course, requires all the noble work that people have been doing in this room to create that basic infrastructure. But perhaps one day our bus stops can become more than concrete slabs, our parks more than grassy lots, and our every design may consider the totality of what it means to be a human being. Thank you.
Thanks, Tony. He was right. I didn't give him any parameters, so he chose the totality of being a human being. No, I mean, we couldn't be prouder of the work that Tony's doing. I actually, when I was prepping my opening remarks, I realized that I didn't even know all of the work he was doing. I was like, I need you to tell me because you're everywhere all of the time in all these communities. I also want to shout out Tony and to some other folks in the room. We've been talking about a lot of academics, but we have the largest concentration of colleges in the country, and Tony has been working with Tufts, has been working with the Harvard GSD students, has been working with Northeastern students. Am I missing any of the groups? You've got like 5 student groups working on Columbia Road, working on the Southwest CDC project, working all over the city. We're basically taking all of this youthful brain power, and by we, I mean Tony, and amplifying it by a million. So look out for more exciting stuff. And thank you to the students who are here who've been working with us on all of this work. Tony was our last speaker tonight, and I hope that you felt inspired by the evening. This is an intentional echo chamber. The idea is to come once a year, to feel good, to be around like-minded people, and then to take the echoing in this space and amplify it in the world around us. So that is my mandate to you, to take what you learned, to be excited, to be inspired, and to go out and have a conversation and get something done so we can put you on this stage and I can torture you next year. Before we go, I just want to shout out again we had several volunteers who helped make this event possible tonight. I also want to shout out the Livable Street staff. Can you guys raise your hands? We have Catherine, who registered all of you, Louisa, Christiana, Andrew,